Yep, so we're last. We end with what we began with the role of the environment and how we can turn this into our favor. Not to repeat everything that's been said, but a lot of things that have been brought up we did talk about. But I guess the major argument we made to begin with, or the feeling of the oil companies on our table, was that they have actually improved their record on the environment, and they have done a better job. So despite Macondo, despite what the negative images are in the industry that we've seen from accidents or environmental problems, we insist that they have done better on the environment. Now the question is, how do we get that message out? And that's sort of where we started. One of the main problems was that they haven't been very good at getting the message out. And one of the first things we looked at was that picture over there on the wall that shows that man covered in oil and fairly filthy, and that is not a great example that we should be setting for the oil industry, because if we're talking about the environment, that does not send the right picture. This perhaps is a bit cleaner and maybe is a better way. So the issue is that we need to get better messages out, and this has been said before. And that comes through transparency, and that means inviting media, other people in to see how the operations work, see that it's clean, see that it's actually an operation that can be environmentally friendly and doesn't sort of link to these stereotypes that we've seen from the oil industry. Second thing, to be environmentally friendly, it's going to cost more. And to implement those costs, it helps that there's regulations. Now, in Europe, the argument is that yes, there are regulations that companies have to achieve, and getting to that level means that they can justify the costs because they have to be in compliance. But in other parts of the world, that just isn't there. So, the suggestion from our table was that perhaps some international organization would be able to sort of set standards for the way that environmental standards should be set. And one suggestion, and I don't know how realistic this would be, but it kind of fits with what we're talking about. OPEC could perhaps work its way into an organization that does push more environmental regulation, and that could help sort of raise the standard. The third thing has been touched on a few times today. How do you get more people on the side of the oil industry? And that comes through education and awareness. This means going to the schools. This means talking to students. This means, as Ethna very excitedly told us, getting them excited about the oil industry. But that just means more outreach and connection with people. And also explaining them, your energy comes from these places, and it's an industry that can have accidents, but it's required for your lights to go on. The fourth thing we dealt with was, there is an understanding that wind and solar is more environmentally friendly, but again, that's only part of the picture. You have to get where we need to get in the next 30, 40 years, we need to have all energy sources, and we're not going to run the world on solar and winds. We need to have oil and gas, we need to have coal, and a lot of these things. So that's, again, it's a message thing. And the final point is simply the fact that companies are going to have to understand it's going to cost more to be environmentally friendly. Without regulations or without sort of the government telling you what to do, or you're going to need to spend more money on these things, and that's going to possibly hit your bottom line. Now, this is coming from the IOCs at my table, so, again, I was surprised that they would be willing to spend more, but in a post-Macondo world, the risks of an event like that have economic impact on you. So, to avoid that, you need to, be, spending a bit more in the short term. And, and finally, just to sum it up, safety costs money, environment costs money. They've got to learn that. So that's it. Thank you very much.